Untouchables. Who were they and why they became untouchables? By Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Part 1, Chapter 2, Part 3. This is a very terrifying list. It includes 429 communities. Reduced to numbers, it means that today there exists in India 50 to 60 million of people whose mere touch causes pollution to the Hindus. Surely the phenomenon of untouchability among primitive and ancient society pales into insignificance before this phenomenon of hereditary untouchability for so many millions of people, which we find in India. This type of untouchability among Hindus stands in a class by itself. It has no parallel in the history of the world. It is unparalleled not merely by reason of the colossal numbers involved, which exceed the number of great many nations in Asia and Europe, but also on other grounds. There are some striking features of the Hindu system of untouchability affecting the 429 untouchable communities which are not to be found in the custom of untouchability as observed by non-Hindu communities, primitive or ancient. The isolation prescribed by non-Hindu societies as a safeguard against defilement, if it is not rational, is at least understandable. It is for specified reasons such as birth, marriage, death, etc. But the isolation prescribed by Hindu society is apparently for no cause. Defilement as observed by the primitive society was of a temporary duration which arose during particular times such as the performance of natural functions, eating, drinking, etc., or a natural crisis in the life of the individual such as birth, death, menstruation, etc. After the period of the defilement vanished and the individual became pure and associable. But the impurity of the 50 to 60 millions of the untouchables of India, quite unlike the impurity arising from birth, death, etc., is permanent. The Hindus who touch them and become polluted thereby can become pure by undergoing purificatory ceremonies. But there is nothing which can make the untouchables pure. They are born impure, they are impure while they live, they die the death of the impure, and they give birth to children who are born with the stigma of untouchability affixed to them. It is a case of permanent hereditary stain which nothing can cleanse. In the third place, non-Hindu societies which believed in defilement isolated the individuals affected or at most those closely connected with them. But the untouchability among the Hindus involves the isolation of a class which today numbers about 50 to 60 million. In the fourth place, non-Hindu societies only isolated the affected individuals. They did not segregate them in separate quarters. The Hindu society insists on segregation of the untouchables. The Hindu will not live in the quarters of the untouchable and will not allow the untouchable to live inside Hindu quarters. This is a fundamental feature of untouchability as it is practiced by the Hindus. It is not a case of social separation, a mere stoppage of social intercourse for a temporary period. It is a case of territorial segregation and of a cordon sanitaire, putting the impure people inside a barbed wire into a sort of cage. Every Hindu village has a ghetto. The Hindus live in the village and the untouchables in the ghetto. Such is the Hindu system of untouchability. Who can deny that it is not altogether different from what is found to exist among non-Hindu societies? That untouchability among Hindus is a unique phenomenon is beyond question. Persons were treated by non-Hindu communities as impure but as individuals. Never a whole class was treated as impure, but their impurity was of a temporary duration and was curable by the performance of some purificatory rites. There has never been a case of a permanent impurity based on the rule once impure, always impure. Persons were treated as impure by non-Hindu communities and they were even cut off from social intercourse. But there has never been a case of persons having been put into permanent segregation camps. A whole body of people have been treated as impure by non-Hindu communities, but they were strangers outside the fold of the kindred. There has never been a case of a people treating a section of their own as permanently and hereditarily impure. Untouchability among Hindus is thus a unique phenomenon unknown to humanity in other parts of the world. Nothing like it is to be found in any other society, primitive, ancient, or modern. The many problems that arise out of the study of untouchability and which call for investigation may be reduced to 1. Why do the untouchables live outside the village? 2. What made their impurity permanent and ineradicable. The following pages are devoted to finding answers to these two questions. The end.